The situation in the Middle East remains tense as violence escalates across Gaza and Lebanon. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has condemned Israeli actions, particularly their impact on civilians, and is urging global support for displaced communities. Araghchi expects the UN Security Council, meeting at the request of Algeria, Russia and China, to take decisive action. He calls on the UNSC to fulfill its duties under Chapter 7 of the UN Charter, addressing Israel's actions as threats to peace. Araghchi underscored Iran's commitment to avoiding conflict, yet stressed that Tehran would defend its territory if necessary, criticizing US support for Israel as a catalyst for further aggression. In Israel, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is working to strengthen alliances with Arab nations, referencing the Abraham Accords as a basis for peace. Meanwhile, Mossad chief David Barnea has engaged in talks with Qatar and US officials, exploring possible negotiations with Hamas. The conflict has intensified, as Hezbollah claimed responsibility for a rocket attack near Haifa, prompting Israeli strikes on Tyre in Lebanon. Salah Citigroup has relocated staff from Lebanon to Turkey, amid rising security concerns. In defense advancements, Israel's Ministry of Defense has allocated $530 million for the Iron Beam laser defense system, aiming to counter threats from Hezbollah. In Gaza, Israeli airstrikes have devastated civilian areas, with over 43,000 Palestinian fatalities reported. The Palestinian Health Ministry confirms continued assaults in Gaza's northern regions, with reports of civilian entrapment and intensified operations targeting alleged Hamas strongholds. In Newcastle, Delaware, President Joe Biden joined early voters, waiting for around 40 minutes before casting his ballot, underscoring the Democratic push for high early voter turnout. Meanwhile, Vice President Kamala Harris is set to deliver her closing arguments at a Washington, D.C. rally tomorrow. Expected to draw nearly 20,000 people on the ellipse, Harris will aim to position herself as a unifying leader, in contrast to Republican rival Donald Trump. At a recent New York rally at Madison Square Garden, Trump faced backlash for comments by comedian Tony Hinchcliffe, who made derogatory remarks about Puerto Rico, sparking criticism on social media from figures like Jennifer Lopez and Bad Bunny. Harris seized on this, highlighting Trump's controversial response to Hurricane Maria as a symbol of his disconnect with American communities in need. Adding to the tension, former Trump lawyer Rudy Giuliani claimed without evidence that Harris plans to resettle Palestinian refugees in the US. Meanwhile, Republican vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance emphasized the need for diplomatic engagement with Russia to foster peace in Ukraine, a stance diverging from Trump's critical view of Ukrainian President Zelensky. With just 8 days until the election, Harris campaigns today in Michigan, while Trump rallies his base tonight in Georgia. Today, Pakistan's political landscape is witnessing significant turbulence. The Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, or PTI, has filed a contempt petition against the Election Commission of Pakistan, arguing that the ECP failed to comply with the Supreme Court ruling from July. This ruling affirmed PTI's right to reserved seats in parliament, a move that could alter the dynamics against Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif's coalition. In a related development, National Assembly Speaker Ayaz Sadiq stirred controversy by stating he would not enforce the court's order, opting instead to await direction from the ECP. In Islamabad, human rights lawyer Imaan Mazari and her husband, Hadi Ali, were arrested for allegedly interfering in state duties. Their arrests have ignited outrage, with the Human Rights Commission of Pakistan condemning the actions as indicative of a shrinking space for dissent. On the international front, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif is heading to Saudi Arabia for the Future Investment Initiative in Riyadh. He is expected to discuss cooperation in energy, defense, and trade with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, building on recent Saudi investments totaling $2.2 billion. Lastly, Pakistan and Russia have signed a memorandum of understanding to enhance parliamentary cooperation, marking a step towards peace and mutual development. Meanwhile, violence continues in Kashmir, as Indian troops killed a suspected freedom fighter, intensifying the ongoing conflict amid accusations of Pakistani support for militants, which Pakistan denies.